Hey everyone, it's Brittany. I'm here today with the lovely Isabella, aka the world's greatest teacher assistant ever. She and I met a few years back when we were both leading a children's coding camp up here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And her day job is actually as a business insurance specialist. So she's here in the group. You've probably seen her posting and liking things here in the group, and I'll kind of let her introduce herself to you here. We're going to do a business insurance Q&A today.
So, hi, my name is Isabella Bolonovich. You want to say the whole thing? And I've been working in insurance for like 4 years or something like that. It's easy to pick up and it's easy to figure it all out, but it can be kind of complicated because there's a lot of rules and regulations and background stuff that having an agent is really worthwhile.
So we've had a lot of you who are just starting out in business, or some of you have had your own business for a bit and seem to have a lot of questions about business insurance. So Isabella very kindly had a brief interview with me and answered a lot of those questions, and we realized it might be easier to present that information in a video format versus giving you a super long Facebook post that you've got to read through, because ain't nobody got time for that, let's be honest. We've got businesses to run here. So I'm just going to go through a few quick questions, some of the more common questions that people seem to have about business insurance, and I will let Ms. Isabella share everything that she knows about insurance with you. Maybe not everything, maybe just a few basics. Most everything. So the first question that comes to a lot of people's minds is, when you're starting a business, you're just getting it off the ground for the first time, business insurance isn't always something that people think about immediately. So how soon should an aspiring business owner start thinking about purchasing business insurance?
Yeah, definitely. So you have an exposure pretty much immediately, unfortunately, because you're going to be doing work. As soon as you start doing work for someone else, they could sue you for something that you're doing. Most of the time though, for a lot of people, maybe once you start renting property, that's a good idea to start thinking about it, because you have a bigger exposure, then the property owner will also require you to have insurance. If you're doing a lot of consultation work, immediately off the bat, especially if it's really large work, maybe not for like a homeowner, but for a business, that's a really good idea to start thinking about it, because they have way more funds to sue you than a homeowner does. But really, it's not a bad idea to start thinking about it immediately, and especially because it doesn't have to be expensive if you start off with a really low basic coverage, and then you can kind of build as your business grows. Policies are constantly changing and evolving, so it's not like it's just one standard thing that you're stuck with for 5 years. You know, you can, as you grow, you increase things in the policy, so it's not a bad idea to start thinking about it early on. But once you have more tangible things like renting property or doing major consultation with big businesses, those are really like the first steps where I would be like, okay, yes, I definitely need to do this and should not waver about buying a policy. Basically.
Excellent. And I'm glad that you mentioned sort of budgeting and how expensive it would be, and that you can build from there. That kind of goes into the next question that I had, which was, how much should a new business owner try to budget in terms of business insurance each year?
Yeah, so a lot of policies, they have minimum premiums. So most any policy you get, the least you'll be paying for is like $250. So, and that's annually. The premium is generally based on things like annual sales, how many employees you have, and that's when you really start seeing premiums go up. So if you're one person doing one thing that's in your sales are like, I don't know, $50,000 a year or something like that, that's pretty standard and should be like under $1,000 hopefully. And again too, it depends on what you're doing. There's certain things that are much riskier than other things. If you're sitting in an office at a desk, your job is not very risky.
The business insurance rates can vary based on what you're doing, where you live, you know, the type of work, how much risk is involved. Is there a basic policy that business owners should start with, or any standards or anything like that?
So a very bare bones policy would include general liability, which would cover things like bodily injury, property damage, and it's like with limits of like 1 million, 2 million, and any lower than that, and you're wasting your time basically, because minimum premiums really, no matter if you get 500,000 1 million policy or 1 million 2 million policy, the same premium could be exactly the same. But that's really a general liability policy is the most basic one you can start with, and then you start adding things based on what you have. So business owners, personal property, if you have any property to cover, then you start adding more comp if you have employees, and various other things that, the bigger you are, the more coverage you need.
The business insurance rates can vary based on what you're doing, where you live, the type of work, how much risk is involved. Is there a basic policy that business owners should start with, or any standards, or anything like that?
So a very bare bones policy would include general liability, which would cover things like bodily injury, property damage, and it's like with limits of like 1 million, 2 million, and any lower than that, and you're wasting your time basically, because minimum premiums really, no matter if you get 500,000 1 million policy or 1 million 2 million policy, the same premium could be exactly the same. But that's really a general liability policy is the most basic one you can start with, and then you start adding things based on what you have. So business owners, personal property, if you have any property to cover, then you start adding more comp if you have employees, and various other things that, the bigger you are, the more coverage you need.
There are a lot of folks in the tech industry in this group, and a lot of people who are independent contractors, work from home, freelance, that sort of thing. So if someone is just starting a business, or maybe they've had a business for a while where they're doing contract work from their own home, using their own equipment, their own computers, and that sort of thing, if the work is all 100% done on the internet, is there a certain type of policy that person would need?
Yeah, there's a business owner's policy, and that's like a BOP, is what it's shortened to. That's kind of a policy you might consider, but really, yeah, you wouldn't have a whole lot of exposure there, because mostly what that covers is someone coming onto your premises tripping, or you going onto someone else's premises and causing some property damage. You're not really doing that. No one's coming to your office. It might be worthwhile to have that coverage to cover your desk or your computer should something happen to it, but that could also be brought into your homeowner's policy. The consideration there, if you're doing a lot of consultation work for people and are not doing it for a big company that would have you as a subcontractor, if you're doing it freelance, is having an errors and omissions policy or an E&O policy. We can talk about that a little bit more, but basically what that does, it covers you for the work that you're actually providing, services that you're providing to people. So an easy example is like a doctor or a lawyer, they would have errors and omissions policies because, well, a doctor's operating on you, and if something goes wrong with, you discover that, hey, they left a sponge inside of me, that's an error they committed during the work they're doing on you. It's not like you went in their office and you tripped and you're like, I'm going to sue you for that. It's totally different than someone working on you and causing damage to you and causing future losses or whatever. So let's say you're working for, a large company and you're doing a freelance project for them, and whatever you did, it caused some kind of break in their system, and for that day they couldn't operate normally. Well, they're losing a lot of money, they're losing potential future clients because they can't do anything, and they could sue you for all that money they've lost, and that's millions and millions of dollars probably. Maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands. It's a lot of money probably. So as someone doing a lot of freelancing work, that's one thing, that's a big policy that I would be really alert to. Again, depending on how big the clients you're working for are. So the bigger they are, the higher your risk is really, and your exposure is much greater. I'm not trying to scare you all, but
don't be afraid of business insurance, but it is something you need, so don't overlook it either. What would a startup need to consider when thinking about statutory limits for disability, workers' comp, those sorts of things?
Yeah, so this kind of policy will come into effect when you have employees. Unless you have employees, you don't need it, but once you do, the state's pretty much going to require that you have it, or else they'll fine you pretty greatly. But the statutory limits are what's mandated by the state, and the limits that you must carry if you have that policy, and there is no carrier that's writing anything less than statutory limits. It's not like automobile where oh, you have the option of, you know, of getting these greater limits and they'll cover you more. Work comp is kind of different in that if an employee is injured in the line of duty for you, your policy covers their lost wages and their medical and dental things, not dental, but medical problems, injuries. But yeah, work comp is not necessary until you have employees. So that's not really something I would even worry about at this point for a lot of people that are starting up.
Okay. And what about, I know a few people in the group who maybe they don't have employees, but they have contractors who do work for them. Would the same rules apply, or would it be different?
Generally, they don't.
Okay.
If you have a contractor that works for you, that's not an employee relationship. It's how you pay them, really. It determines an employee relationship. So like a 1099 is different than 1W2. I don't know what those terms are, but I know a 1099 is a contractor employee, and that it doesn't count.
Okay. So it's just if they're straight employees, it's not the same if you just hire contractors to do work for you. So one of the things that we definitely want to discuss is if you work in the tech industry, which I know at least a quarter, if not a half of our group members currently do work in tech, there's something called an E&O, which I will let you kind of tell our members about that and why it's so important if you work in the tech industry.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's covering you for errors and omissions that you commit in the line of your work, basically. Lawyers, doctors, attorneys, those are lawyers, insurance agents, we all have this kind of policy to protect us from potentially giving people wrong advice or telling them things that are not true or causing them some kind of financial and irreparable damage. So in tech, your risk is a lot greater because you're doing a lot of work for people that could halt their business practices for the day. So it's just an important coverage. Liability is one of those, just a general liability policy. It's like a standard basic thing that covers you should you damage someone's property in the line of work, but you're not really doing that. You're not damaging someone's real property. You might be damaging their system property, which is very different. And that's not real property in insurance. So tech E&O would pick up a loss like that.
And just to elaborate on that a little bit more, if you are building a website for someone and it misses the deadline for some reason, maybe the project gets out of scope and that causes the business to lose money, would that be an example?
It could definitely be something where someone would be like, I'm not really satisfied with your services and I'm gonna, it's hard to say what someone would sue you for, but I wouldn't say that couldn't happen or that someone wouldn't consider that if they had enough money. It costs a lot to sue someone, but maybe it costs more, like maybe they had a lot more damage than that, so.
One of the things my business lawyer always says is that there's nothing that we can do to 100% keep people from suing a business owner. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
You can never guarantee that you're not going to get sued, so in this situation, it's definitely better to play it safe than to be sorry.
Yep, and that's where insurance really helps you.
So companies withholding money from contractors for not complying.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing, and I see this a lot with like artisan contractors, people who are like HVAC electrical contractors, probably not a whole lot in other types of fields, but if someone is saying, hey, I need you to have this insurance, and you don't have that insurance, it's possible they won't pay you until you have that insurance. So why not have the insurance first and foremost before you even consider, that? And it's one of those things where before you sign a contract with someone, read through it and read their insurance requirements. If they're requiring you to have insurance, get that insurance in place. It might cost you a lot of money, and it does sometimes, but would you rather get paid down the road? Yes, I think you would, Yeah.
So with all things related to insurance, just better to be safe than sorry. Just go ahead and get it in advance. It might cost you a little bit more money up front, not a ton of money, just a little bit up front. But again, you're protected just in case someone tries to sue you, someone tries to not pay you. It's saves a lot of stress.
It
for
really
business
does save
owners.
big headaches.
That covers most of the questions that our members had for you, as well as the questions that I personally wanted to ask. Before we kind of wrap things up, is there anything else that you think is really super important for our members to understand about business insurance?
Yeah,
What is important about business insurance?
it's hard to say because there's just a lot of things that come into play when considering whether to have a policy, how much coverage do I need, what do I need to protect, but it's worth getting a quote and figuring out if you can budget for it rather than not even thinking about it at all. And, getting a quote is not, all it's going to cost you is time. Talking to an agent, figuring out, hey, do I specifically need this? Given all the facts about my business, is a policy worthwhile for me? Again, it doesn't cost you a single thing to pick up the phone and call an agent. It doesn't have to be me, any single agent. They should be able to help you with this. It's part of our job and it's part of the counsel we kind of give you to determine if you even need a policy. So reach out to one.
This one, she's really good. In all seriousness though, if anyone watching this video has any questions about business insurance, are you comfortable with them maybe reaching out to you?
Yeah, you can just PM me via Facebook, I'm open there. And I can put in my more formal contact information there because I check my work email a lot more than my personal email, but and you're not obligated to get insurance through me even if you come talk to me. I will let you know that, hey, there's better options for you than myself. But as an independent agent, I do have more options than like a State Farm or Nationwide agent because we represent multiple carriers where they represent just one carrier. So and if you, like I said, even if you don't go through me as an independent agent, go through any independent agent. Your options are much, much better.
Hey everyone, it's Brittany, and I just wanted to say thanks for watching this video. This is an important topic, and it's always better to be safe than sorry when it comes to business insurance. If you still have any questions, or if you want to get a free quote, we actually have a couple of business insurance specialists in this group. I will be sharing their contact information in the comments below, and you can also feel free to leave a comment below this video if you have any questions that you would like them to answer for you. That's all we have for you today, so enjoy the rest of your week and let us know if there are any other Q&A sessions you'd like us to do or any business-related questions or concerns that we can help you with. Thank you for watching.